Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Beautiful hearts, thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special couple of guests today. This is Eric Pearl and Jillian Fleer. They are the creators of the Reconnection. It is a healing modality that many people on our planet are using, and it actually opens people up to beautiful experiences and new energies. Hi, Eric. Hi, Jillian.
Thanks.
So welcome. Oh my gosh. I first met both of you. Oh my gosh. I think it was almost 15 years ago, if not more than that. And so how is it going? What is new with both of you?
You know, healing is always new, and relationships are always new. Each morning we wake up and I say, there's the person I love. As some people would phrase it, the face of God in human form for me, and every day is different.
That is so beautiful. Jillian.
It's so beautiful. Wow.
Well, thank you.
The last 15 years have been a remarkable exploration of love, but also what is healing? It's
Yes.
really given us an opportunity with, I would say, since we're going to talk about interdimensional beings, we would say that it has allowed us to look at interdimensional being not so much as a separate entity, not so much as two separate species or galactic friends, but actually what is this interdimensional being that resides wholly in each and every one of us as one, as oneness.
And ultimately, I'm sorry.
No, that,
Ultimately, as oneness, then it's not just who is this interdimensional being that resides in us, but what is the interdimensional beingness that is us? Why is it that we perceive it sometimes as separate, distinct otherness?
Yes.
Why is it then in these different otherness forms that we attribute to some of them as good and some of them as bad, some of them as neutral? What is it that doesn't allow us always to perceive, to recognize that you are one with everyone and everything always, and most everything around it in how we describe it is a story we make up. That serves a purpose.
and I also think we want to really deeply acknowledge the mechanism of the body-mind. We certainly know at this intersection that we are not a body-mind. We are, God, love, infinite intelligence expressing itself through a body-mind in a way, but that body-mind has a beginning and ending. And this interdimensional being doesn't come and go. She is present regardless of the circumstances, whether they're world circumstances or emotional, mental, even spiritual in a way. The being, this interdimensional being, is ever present. And maybe we've played over the years in reconnective healing with the observer and the witness and the witnessed. It's an integral part of reconnective healing as energy, light, and information really is what we are. And that's the revealing. So what do we do with the last 15 years of space and time?
But sometimes really the revealing, I'll say all the time actually, is the revealing of ourselves to ourselves, the unveiling of myself to myself, which really is self. So Reconnective healing showed up very well disguised as other things and foreign. In other words, when it first seemed like it came in, to come in, that perception means it was somewhere else, and then it showed up here. And there isn't really an else or an other, but it was a perception because I wasn't allowing myself to see it. Then suddenly it appeared. Really, that's very much similar to if you draw all your curtains at night when you go to sleep and you get up in the morning and you open them, you look out the window and there's this lush green lawn. Do you for a moment go, oh, I wonder where that lawn came from? Of course not. It just is. And with reconnective healing, so many people were in the beginning reporting that they were seeing, we'll call them, I like to call them people because they're just us in various forms, but by the same names as one another, by the same descriptions, with the same messages. They either saw an angel who looked like this and said that, or they saw a beautiful, the young children saw a beautiful talking multicolored parrot that looked like this and said that. I'm thinking none of these people know each other. It's not making sense. And yet the healings took place. So it was very easy for me in the beginning to say, oh, extraterrestrials. But really, what's an extraterrestrial? Except us.
Okay, that is so very, very cool. And so here, here we are, we've been doing healing conversations, quantum conversations for 20 years now. Isn't that remarkable? Isn't that remarkable? I'm just amazed. And so you guys, as you work with healers and empower people to step into their healing role all over the planet, can you help us identify this learning path for the awakening ones? We have 8 billion people on this planet, and we're seeing an acceleration in an awakening. And so the path, I'd say the majority of people who've been with us for 20 years are excelled. They're almost quantum, where they understand that we can be superhuman once we do the cleanup work. But we have identified a path, and maybe you both can speak to this, that it really is, we must heal first. We must heal from our limiting beliefs. We must heal from programming and trauma that we've experienced in our life and maybe even other lives, because it clouds our judgment. It keeps us from being in the heart and letting that heart light flow freely. So there's the healing aspect that must be done first, that a person has to undertake on their own with a facilitator. That's really what reconnective healing does as well. But when we pass that level, we come into the heart, and then we live in the heart, and we create from the heart. And then Jillian, you mentioned the body mind, the heart mind connection as well. And this takes us to a next level of going quantum, where we begin to understand galactic consciousness, right? That we are almost even cosmic consciousness. There's more to life on this planet, and it really is a beautiful journey for people. Can you share your thoughts on the learning path for people waking up? And is it fast? Can they get through some of those earlier stages more quickly, or what's that journey like in your eyes and experience?
I want to first say that one of the greatest, parts of this moment is that I feel like the human experience is really an upgrade. And let me sort of qualify what I mean. Once we know that we are not limited to the body mind, that we are truly all that is, okay? We are consciousness. Then, as you mentioned, there was prior, I thought about something, I brought it to my heart. That was a very early variation of starting to find healing within, in the body mind. And then that beautiful recognition that no, I am this heart. I am this. And once our life, as we perceive and conceive, is really centered in the heart, and yet it moves up into the mind for little editing, where we create in the world, we need the mind. We need the detail. We need the ability to look at a beautiful flower or look at a beautiful ocean. And ultimately, I think this growth path becomes no longer about going from something's wrong with me to healed. As you said, we become cosmic consciousness, and the world, in a way, is our magnificent canvas. And when we truly know this, I believe once you know this, you can't unknow it. So it no longer, a circumstance, a dilemma, a hardship, a disease, no longer has the capacity to take that knowingness away any longer. So we are truly living as cosmic consciousness, no longer derailed, if you will, by every circumstance. Consequences don't determine our joy. Circumstances don't have the ability any longer to, again, take away the sacredness of all that is, whether it is complex and difficult and heart-wrenching and suffer-filled, or it is elation and joy and beauty. It's all truth, love, and beauty. And so I think we're there. There's going to be, I think, a lot of falling away as this establishes itself.
Falling away is a very important word because, Lauren, as you mentioned, you said, I think we become multidimensional. We become healers once we clean up. And I'm going to play with that word become. I don't think we become that. I think we recognize that lawn when we open our curtains. We recognize that we are the healers. The concept of cleaning up sometimes gets tied into concepts of worthiness. And for many of those reasons, we start, for not seeing the healer that we are, we start on what is spoken of as progressive journeys to learn healing. First you do this, then you do that, then you do the other. First you use this technique, and then you move in this direction, and then you use that crystal, and da-da-da. And these progressive paths can be short, and they can be a lifetime. But ultimately, where is the progressive path bringing you? What's bringing you back to you? So today, I find that a lot of us are ready to and recognize that a direct path doesn't require long travel. Doesn't mean we can't. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy them if we want to. But a lot of times we keep saying, I'm going to step halfway, step halfway, step halfway, step halfway. And we get confused because we see ourselves each time we step halfway getting closer. It's truth. But the illusion is thinking that as long as we stay on a progressive path, we're ever going to get there. We won't, because each time, even if the path is only a millimeter, stepping halfway is still only stepping halfway. At a certain point in time, we're here to recognize, wait, this is the truth, the essence of who I am. This allows us to, I'll use metaphorically the term feel, receive, recognize, know. And in that, we begin to truly facilitate healings as the healers that we are. We stop stepping halfway and we step into who we have been all along. Ultimately, as we let that go, we discover we're on the pathless path. So what appears to be a path to us is ultimately an illusion. Now, let's not use and mistake the word illusion as it doesn't exist. But that's what most people think of an illusion as. Truth is that if you're living in a very hot area and you're taking a drive down a long road, you might see what looks like a pool of water ahead of you, kind of like a mirage. The people in your car with you may see the same thing. So it's real because it exists. An illusion is simply not what it appears to be. And long progressive paths to discover that we are healers are not what they appear to be. They're not what is required. They're an option.
I like that word option. And then I think that's also a magnificent part of this moment. We can start to choose. And I think choice is really important. Somebody shared this sort of simple A, B, C, D. And I said, okay, well, A is the alchemy. It's the alchemy of multidimensional quantum consciousness that no one can explain. There is no actual way to know what it is, but it is. And here we all are. And then there's B, birth. And then there's C, choices. And then there's D, death of that experience. And I said, oh, that's fascinating, of that experience. She said, yes, because B, C, and D are just an experience. And yet we never really, there's never a loss of A. A remains this infinite flow. It's the same. And I think that we are starting to recognize that is the main ingredient of this cosmic being.
The alchemy that we are.
We're so focused on B, C, and D. We're born. We make these choices. Some of the choices are good choices, and some of them are horrible choices. You know?
And yet they're good anyway. We just regret them and view them as some as good and some as bad. Yes, that's true. Some are.
Some of them are filled with regret and horror, and you know, they are, and there's this range. Look at the world, this incredible range of B, C, and D. You know, birth, choices, death. Is it really yet? How is it that when you even close your eyes for a moment and say, I am. We know that, but we don't know that through our mind. We don't know that through what we'll say, the body mind. We know that knowing. So what happens when we really know that? Meaning we are born and we are looking all around and maybe that cosmic consciousness has reached that beautiful level where language is not so important. All that qualifying that we do sort of softens, and yet there's reception, and we truly understand that this B, C, and D, this is unity.
But sometimes it's the contrast that allows us, that invites us to understand. For instance, we've all had those days where we've been cut off in traffic and we've had less than a pleasant thought about the person to do it. Or we've stood there in line at the supermarket, you know, in a rush because our partner's sitting in the car in the lot. And the one person ahead of us can't find their 15-cent off coupon, and they refuse to take 15 cents from anyone. So everything gets delayed. And we get, I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm pissed off, I am whatever. And that keeps us from saying, oh, you know, I am that person. I've had those times. And looking at that person, I realize that I'm probably a little embarrassed that I need that money so much, that coupon at this moment. And I'm standing here holding up the line. There are so many things, but I'm angry, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. And we feel what that word is. We feel anger. We feel whatever. Now, sometimes for me, and I bet for you, if you try it, the key is to not say, I am angry, I'm going to do, I am this, I am that, but instead to pause and drop that last word and say, I am. There's something in that am that no longer has that experience. Every experience has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The anger begins, you're in the middle of it, it ends. The laughter begins, you're in the middle of it, it ends. The this begins, that. But in I am, and I invite everyone watching this, just pause for yourself and say, I am. Feel the am, and you may very well find that there are no edges. There are no boundaries to I am. It's just who we are. And suddenly all those experiences that have been coloring our day and making us think that we are anger, we are this, we are that, vanish because we've taken that moment to look at and feel ourselves.
We've spoken for decades about I am. It's been, looked at and storied, and it's a beautiful approach to feel it. But what if we're actually going to continue to use the word human? So new human has been explored. Our so many of our dear friends and colleagues, Lee Carroll and so many. And yeah, in any case, what if, because I think we actually shun that. We shun that word now, I'm just human, or I'm only human. You know what I mean? But this is a glorious planet. And while most of us have experienced that, it's not the only one. There are many dimensional realms, all simultaneous, I would say, but this is a pretty expressive and beautiful one. So I don't know that we want to trade our cosmic upgrade and again depart or leave behind this humanness, this that we all are, that we connect in human. We do. And I think there's an intelligence to this that welcomes AI in, and it welcomes all the creativity that's, been generated by this exceptional experience called human. And to me, part of this time is an inclusiveness rather than an exclusiveness. That inclusiveness where we can't just all be one and say, yeah, but I only want that part and that part and that part and that part. Yeah, oneness is pure inclusivity.
And it's not easy, as Jillian says, to see through the mind. When I wrote my first book on the reconnection, well, I viewed everything as otherness, as separate and distinct. It appeared that way. Mm-hmm. It appeared, excuse me 1 second, because I'm about to cough. It appeared that way, that something was coming in, something was new, there was this over there was that over here. By the time Jillian and I wrote our most recent book, The Direct Path to Healing, we began to recognize this unity, this oneness, this being. And for a lot of people who are tuning in saying, oh, what does this have to do with healing if that's our thoughts? The fact is that is what has everything to do with healing. The things that we do, we're taught to do for healing, move that way, do this, do that. That has almost nothing to do with healing unless we allow ourselves the gift of allowing all those doing things to bore us to death. And only when we let go of the doing do we realize we're standing there in presence. That's where the healing is facilitated, in the presence. It doesn't allow us to get lost in the externals of what to do and how to do it. So it's the key to everything.
And can I live that knowing that simultaneously I did work in the pyramids, and I continue to exercise that capacity. I work deeply with my love of Christ. I do. And that entire exchange happens simultaneously. Now I can choose, okay, I'm done with this human life and I just want to be part of that dimension. I just want to be now ready to ascend or, you know, we don't use the word enlightenment in reconnective healing because we don't believe that you can become something that you already are. So we don't speak about becoming enlightened. It's just in this approach, it doesn't make sense.
You are enlightenment. You just are. And again, it's whether it's obscured or revealed.
Obscured or revealed. So, but how do we have the capacity as these, again, this cosmic consciousness to embrace all our capacity, to be in these simultaneous planes of existence consciously?
Not only do we have the capacity as a
Consciously.
question, but will our personality, what many
Yes.
people refer to as the ego, will it allow that? You know, a lot of people say, I learned this, I learned that, I learned the other. Here are my 16 certificates on my walls. I can do it this way, that way, and the other way, and I am doing the healing. It takes a different, fuller, I would say, awareness, recognition of ourselves to say, huh, my beingness is the healing. Right now, Lauren, as I look at you, I'm receiving healing, and I believe we're all receiving healing. Is that enough for us? When Jillian and I facilitate distance healings all around the world, we're sitting in presence and beingness. We're not standing and jumping up and down and moving our hands north and south and east and west. It's a beingness in the love of being with that person. And suddenly we realize that we don't have to get on an airplane and take a taxi and go up an elevator to be with them to facilitate a healing. They can be so much more dramatic simply by recognizing who you are.
And I want to say one thing to this, because Lauren, you said Acoustic Health has been around 20 some years, your program? Yes. And
Yes.
so some might say, you know, you might say, wow, this show is going to be my legacy. And I remember hearing a little thing. It was a conversation actually Oprah was having about a conversation she and Maya Angelou had. And it was something to the effect that this particular thing that I built will be my legacy. Maya Angelou said, no, your legacy is in the next person that you touch and the next person that you touch. It is not in a program. It is not in a invention. It's not as a healer. It's not as a scientist. That is not our legacy. But yet, in this smaller consciousness, somehow, again, that exclusivity versus the inclusivity gets really lost. And we will go to all ends of the world to protect it, to protect this elusive, illusionary legacy. And I think that too starts to fall away once we really know that we are interdimensional beings. We don't feel the need to protect something as this is my thing. This is my one thing. Before I leave this body, I want to be sure this, and this. You're not leaving anywhere. You might leave your body, but you're already doing that. You're doing that all the time. So maybe that also just changes the atmosphere a bit in this human experience. And we really relate to everything.
In the Reconnective
differently.
Healing training programs that Reconnective Academy puts on for us, we find, well, if being is the whole thing, then what am I here to learn? Well, we're here to recognize it, And it's a felt sense of knowing this. This has a lot to do, I believe, with how reconnective healing first showed itself to me and how we were able to share it with others. I would say just, hold your hand this way for a moment. Notice what you observe. Notice what you feel. What am I supposed to feel? You're not supposed to have a feeling. What is it? Does it tingle? Does it move? Does it change temperature? Is there a vibratory sense to it? Just explore it. And then suddenly in our willingness to stand still and receive that recognition, new forms of recognition take place. This is our oneness with everyone and everything. When we're saying, I have to do this, then that, then this, then that, then I move it this way, do it that, we're talking. We're not allowing ourselves to listen or hear. In presence, everything is heard because it is a felt knowingness, not knowledge, not these facts and those facts. Because what do we know about facts? Well, wait around long enough, they all change, right? Nothing, as science says, nothing can be proven in science, only disproven. But knowingness is that place of knowing as your essence, and you cannot stand in it alone. Even as we're all looking at one another, we're allowing ourselves to be in feeling, be in recognition. And I can pretty much promise you, you will receive healings after this program. You'll receive, messages from people after this program saying, I've had this for a long time and now I don't. And then they'll start thinking of healings as that, which is wonderful. This went away, that went away, this fixed, that fixed. Except that's not all that healing is. Healing is about stepping into our fullness, is about not, as Jillian said, not looking for the enlightenment. The healing is the recognition that we are that enlightenment. And as enlightenment, it's impossible to keep to ourselves. This is the sharing. And this is how people receive healing. This is part of why it's reconnective healing. It's not that we can ever disconnect. It's just that sometimes we can overlook or sort of forget that we are one with everyone and everything. And the fullness of healing is that recognition.
Thank you both so much for this, because you've explained it all. And you've explained that it really is non-linear. In a way, we can say it's non-linear, that
Absolutely.
it's this presence and the contrast. So the contrast is what reminds us that we moved out of presence, right? We moved out of love. And then there's that choice that we can go back into that love. And so this knowingness, this felt knowingness, that absolutely has to override the ego or any doubt that may come in. So we know that when people are embarking on this and they begin to hear their guides, when we do this work and we are very present and we have that knowingness, at times there could be roadblocks or stumbles called doubt that make us question whether it's real. We could even see a starship or a UFO in the sky, and because we don't see it the next day on the news, we can disbelieve that we even saw it. So what have you seen with any of your students, or what are your thoughts on how we tame that ego mind, and how does that really get reinforced? Trust. It really becomes trust in the soul. How do you cultivate that?
It's a beautiful gift in this particular approach to healing. Always and historically, we have kind of the opposite problem, because when people begin to play with energy, light, and information, one of their first concerns is that, wait a minute, I wasn't thinking that, or it bypassed my mind. It didn't move through as, I'm going to say, a felt recognition that then there was a behavioral um, uh, interruption and maybe even a memory that came that really blew it all up that, you had to process. So often our students come in, many with a varying life circumstances and cares and concerns. And somehow in this beautiful reconnecting, there's almost an immediate recognition that I am not my mind. How could I be? I'm not having the thought, again, aligned with actually what's happening in my life now. In instantaneous healing always brings that up because you didn't do anything and now you're something different. So how do they reconcile that? So that's where the personality, I'm going to say that word ego always triggers people, but I'm going to use the word personality. It rises, right? It rises because the body mind is designed in a way to recognize its role, its participation. I don't think that the body mind prefers presence. It would be no need for it. It's as if the body mind sort of slips into the background as presence moves into the foreground. But I think from an egoic point of view, it's not comfortable always for that release to take place. And I think that's why the progressive path can help. It really can. Not all of us are ready. We've been conditioned so early on to qualify our very humanness. I mean, from the moment I am a girl, I'm a woman, I'm a this, I'm a that, I do this, I do that. I mean, this has been the platform to survive in what we'll call this realm, right? So how does that change? How does it change? It changes as we begin to recognize that I don't have to be the one that knows they are depressed, for instance. Depression is happening. I'm aware, as awareness, I'm aware that there is depression, but I am not depression. And slowly, especially when it's something truly dragging us down, there's a relief. It's subtle. It may not last very long, but it's there. And in that moment, I think we can, I'm going to use the word glimpse. We glimpse with that is not the personality, that is not qualified, that is not limited in any way. We glimpse with our true nature. We glimpse with our truth or true nature. And right there, we don't have to rework a belief quite in the same way. We don't have to become, and I do love this expression, the best version of ourselves. I think that there is the best version of ourselves in our daily life experience, and that's awesome. But I don't know that it informs you or tells you anything about your true nature. So we got to get used to the fact that experience is limited. It's like your desktop. It's a beautiful way to play with the icons and have them move quickly and have them express in a lot of ways, but it's not the source. So personality comes and goes. How could it be that which we are? It can't be. And again, in reconnective healing, nothing Eric has ever brought to this planet ever was defined through the conditioning of the body mind or changing of beliefs or habits.
We don't know how reconnected healing works. And the first person who will tell you that they do, just walk away, let them ruin someone else's, lunch. The point is, we don't know, and it's that willingness to not know that opens the infinite. It's what allows people to come in and have healings who might not even be looking for a healing.
We had at a small gathering not that long ago, one of our students had brought their daughters. And as it turned out, her daughter was a very well-established, very well-known CEO of a very large company. And I spotted her. She was sort of in the back, and we had a beautiful gathering, and everybody was leaving. And, she stopped me and said, I have a question. And she seemed irritated. There was just a sense of irritation. And I said, how can I help? And she said, about 6 months ago, my mom came and she learned Reconnective Healing. And of course, she was really enthusiastic. And so we wanted to encourage her. And so she did a session for myself and one of my kids. And I said, okay, I'm waiting for like some big ball to drop. And she said, I am confused. And I said, what are you confused about? She said, well, I'll be very transparent. I'm what you would call a very high functioning executive who has acute manageable depression. And I said, okay. And she said, I've managed my whole life like this. And I've obviously been able to be successful in my work and successful in my relationships. And I said, okay. She said, I can't find it. And I said, I don't know what you mean. She said, I can't find it. And I said, you can't find what? She said, I can't find my depression. I can't find it. And I said, okay, how, and in what way are you understanding this? She said, I've known myself to be this way all my life, and I have orchestrated everything in my life that way, and it's not there anymore. As in a way, the healing happened in the way that it was supposed to. It unveiled her true nature, and it wasn't depressed, but the architecture had been so well established around her depression.
Frightened her that she was about to get married. Tell him that.
Oh, yeah. She was getting remarried, and she was, all of a sudden it brought up the concern, I've gone into this relationship in this way, and what if I don't love him? And
what if I'm a different person?
What if I'm a different person? So here she had a healing. She was glimpsing fully her true nature. She was absolved in a way of everything that she knew herself to be, herself, the little self. And this true nature was expressing itself freely. And so, okay, it wasn't easy. So even in having the healing, the personality resists. It resists. It resists. And so
it's hard for us to grasp. How can you think about someone who has depression and suddenly it's relieved,
right,
being anything other than elated?
But you can. To understand this, it makes from the point of view of the limited BCD, birth, choices, and death, this one vessel that we think is all that is, it's a derailing, if you will. So I think we're in this now. I think many people are having instantaneous healing. Like you said, they've found a truth to their guides, and they're listening to that.
We're ready for something different now.
Yes.
we're ready. And part of the reason we weren't ready is because so many people were teaching us as if we're not ready, teaching you little spoonfuls, but
Right.
holding on to everything else. And really, it's time for the students to become the teachers. I don't want to position it as teacher, student, upper or downer, but it's
Yes.
time for us to learn not necessarily from the person who's standing at the podium. It's really just key. And that's part of why we're ready to not have to go on those long, protracted journeys with all the different steps and the different this and that. We're ready now if we choose it. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with it if you still want that. But now this is the time for the direct path to healing. This is the welcoming time for the pathless path to healing. And like the woman whose depression left and she wasn't sure she wanted that. Do we want this? Are we ready to let go of all the doings? I used an analogy in the first book a long time ago. I said, gorgeous training wheels on a bicycle help us find our balance. They really do. But at some point in time, maybe you remember when your mother or father said, okay, it's time to take the training wheels off. We weren't so sure we wanted that. What if I fall? No, can I have a second set of training wheels? Can I have 26 sets of training wheels? But the gift of the training wheels only come when you take the last ones off the bicycle. In healing, all these do this, do that, use this, use that are our training wheels. They have value. But the biggest gift of the techniques come when we allow ourselves to transcend them, because in that, the only thing that is left is you. And we start to realize, I remember when these healings first came about and healers were coming all from around the world to work with me and say, do this, do that, add this, add that, do the other, do the other. And I was for a while, and I wasn't even getting the same results, but I just felt awkward with it. And one day I'm standing there facilitating a healing and I'm thinking, now I can give them a way to anchor it in if it leaves, for example. I'm thinking, wait a minute. If I say anchor it in if it leaves, I'm already poisoning them with the illusion that it might leave. What am I saying and doing? For me, I knew that from being a doctor of chiropractic, I was now stepping into healing. I had to challenge myself. I said, okay, this is the time where I need to allow reconnective healing to stand or fall on its own, because that is the only way I will know that what I am doing is real. Otherwise, why would I allow my life to go on this path anyway? I had a very successful practice as a chiropractor. I didn't need to be waving my hands in the air over people. It was just a knowingness inside. And I couldn't have it propped up by things. It just had to be. And I just see that.
So beautiful. Really, you have assisted us. This conversation is so healing because we really are. There's nothing to fix. It's this allowing. We are here to allow. So this is good news for all those, there's about 10% of our audience that says, I'm in that healing stage.
Yeah.
Well, this could fast track them into just coming into the heart and being present. And then that is so beautiful what happens there. This knowingness, this feeling of knowingness, as you said, is really the key. And that can happen rapidly. And we've seen people heal from this world rapidly, or let's call it waking up rapidly, and then bringing.
Why don't we even play with the word rapidly? Because rapidly is a concept of time and space. What if we allow ourselves the recognition break of the immediate, which really means there's no time, there's no distance, there's no space, there's no measurement. It just is. And the healings that we're looking for, the reason that we're looking for them is because we already know them. Otherwise, we could never come up with looking for them in the first place. We are that.
So I want to know about that's the 10%. Tell me just about the 90% of your
Yeah.
audience. That's inspiring.
Really?
Then there's another 30% who see themselves as coming into the heart more and learning to live in heart-based consciousness, heart-based living. And then those who are quantum are 60%, where we are in tuned with our heart, we're connected with our higher self, and now we are knowing that our guides are with us, that we are connected in that way, that information and light technologies are coming to us, that this memory of a flash, a glimpse, as you say, Jillian, a glimpse of a knowingness about that stranger over there, but there's there's an electricity, there's a connection. So if we allow ourselves to feel into that, we know, that was a past life. Wow, that was pretty sexy, or whatever. So this is really interesting where humanity is. And so we're just trying to identify so that the many, many people who are getting a clue, looking around and going, wow, there's got to be something more. Because when I follow politics, for example, well, enough in another 4 years, we're going to have another thing, and here we go again, right? And the divisiveness continues, but we don't have to do that anymore. We can say that we are here to bring forward our authenticity, our gifts. And so as we prepare to wrap up this conversation, I'd like to ask both of you about the most important thing that we can do as those who are awakening right now. We can call it awakening. And what does that mean? That means really understanding that love is the driving force, that everything around us that is not love is to help us make that choice, that we just moved away from love to experience the lack of love, right?
Yeah.
And so what is the most important message? You can each share on this that needs to be in the forefront of all of our hearts right now at this time.
For me, it's my deep love to see myself in everything and everyone, to know that I am that, and no longer move through the world with that kind of lingering conversation in the background of, I'm so blessed because look at, I have this, and this, and look at this other who doesn't have that, and that. But to actually walk through the world and say, I am that. I am that. I am that. And eventually, and there are days where I think I do, where my daily waking state is filled with all of me, all of my life simultaneously. I can observe and feel them, and they're not any longer just my guides. They're my love of friendship. They're my love of creative expression. And I can see that they're not all happening in this particular plane, but I can also see that they're happening simultaneously in all these planes. And sometimes I think, what if everyone wakes up in the morning tomorrow and all of their lives are happening to them, with them, in them simultaneously? Well, right now, they couldn't handle that. We can't handle that. But I think this dissolving of the veil of separation, another way we've spoken about this, and our guides have spoken about this. Our guides come in because there is that veil and it lifts, and there we are. And I think more and more, maybe it is an allowing, or maybe it isn't going to be a choice. Maybe it is a revealing, a sheer revealing of what is. And so I hope we are ready for this. That's what I would wish. I would wish that we are ready, and that 45% that's mastered a certain level of it, hold someone's hand, hold them.
And what Jillian is sharing also in that allows us to let go of judgment and the division, as you mentioned. In other words, when we hear our guide's voice, are we willing to pause and go, it's easier for me to attribute it to someone else. Maybe I'll give that more value than listening to me, just the way we would give a doctor in a hospital more credence than we'd give our own son or daughter who went to school and is also a doctor, because we changed their diapers. It's different the way we look at ourselves. And in that release of otherness and judgment, we begin to recognize that what a friend of Jillian's and mine shared with us, that judgment really is the closing of the aperture of love. Let's release that.
Yeah. It's a dimming of the aperture of love. But like every aperture, an aperture opens and closes. And I do think sometimes that's another real experience we're having. It is this aperture of love opening and closing, but it's all love. It's just love. And the aperture.
What are we but that?
Yes, that is what we are.
And so in the standing, in the knowing, the felt knowingness of yourself, you all and everything that you can recognize about yourself is that love. And somehow or other, because there are no hows and whys to love, you can't technique your way into love. So in that knowingness, healings appear for ourselves, for others, for everyone. It might sound a little Pollyanna, but once you experience it, you're going, oh, I got it. Where was I all this time?
And it doesn't mean that there isn't a dark night of the soul. It doesn't mean that we don't move through those moments, weeks, could be months, but they no longer have the capacity to take us away from knowingness. And that, I think, would be a nice step up for human experience. Yeah.
So needed at this time, and you both are doing incredible work. And as we mentioned, that those who have already gone through this path have achieved cosmic consciousness, connection in such a deep way. And you mentioned, Eric, it's time for them, the student, to be the teacher. And that's why the work that both of you do is wonderful, because you are really assisting those in stepping up into that knowingness. And now we know on a deeper level, that bumper sticker that says love heals, there we've said it, love heals. We can move away from love and feel what that's like, but we certainly want to be in that love. And so today, as we are recording this, this is a day of love, Dia d'Amor, Valentine's Day. And so every day, every moment is a day of love. Is it not?
It is.
We're very excited. There is a live in-person event where you can join Eric Pearl and Jillian Flair. Tell us about that.
Well, we're also excited about it because this will be the first time in 4 years that Jillian and I will teach live, really teach live, not just via the internet. And really what's important about this now is that once you truly interact and share and interact with what we call the reconnective healing frequencies. Yeah. I know we have such separation. We just position so many teachers in so many different ways. So let me say it clearly. You will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do, and anything and everything in the way of healing that any human anywhere on this planet can do. And you'll be gifted with that knowingness before you walk out that door.
So when is it?
That's a good idea. That's a good question. It will be on Virginia Beach, March 29th and 30th. That's Saturday and Sunday. And for those of you who want to move into the next couple of days of it, it'll continue to March 31st and April 1st.
Yeah. The best way to inquire about it is at reconnectiveacademy.com.
Yeah.
Reconnectiveacademy.com. And that's our beautiful partner, Guillermo Pole, and he is doing all the registrations through
Runs all the training programs around the world for us.
reconnectiveacademy.com. So anybody who might be interested, come play with us. And thank you again, Lauren. This has just been a beautiful conversation. It's just beautiful to be with you again and actually to speak about love itself. Yeah, thank you.
A beautiful opportunity to join Jillian and Eric on this live in-person event, Calling All Healers. That's you. Thank you.
And thank you for your decades of bringing all different kinds of ways to understand healing, health, love, beauty, truth. You know, you are quite remarkable, Lauren Gailey. So thank you. Thank you. Really, you've touched me today.
Thank you both. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know that it has been so uplifting for all, and we can instantaneously heal. Love heals. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.